Tonight, the firestorm President Trump and race. The president declaring today, I don't have a racist bone in my body. The effort to condemn the president in Congress. How far will it go? And our correspondent tonight asking lawmakers on the Hill to go on the record about what the president tweeted about those 4 congresswomen. And you'll see as many try to avoid the question. Outrage in New York City tonight. The officer in the Eric GArner case will not face federal charges. His family tonight saying the Justice Department failed us. Bracing for dangerous heat tonight. 15 states on alert from Texas to the Northeast. It'll feel like 108 in D.C., 106 in New York City. And the warnings about the potential for another blackout. Rob Marciano is live. New images tonight, the deadly plane crash killing everyone on board the moment the plane flips and slams into a hangar. The final words on the cockpit voice recorder. The beloved African-American activist found in the trunk of her car and what authorities have now revealed tonight. Under arrest after the American mother, a U.S. scientist, was found dead, thrown into a World War II bunker. A priest's son is now in custody tonight, what authorities say he did. And Apollo 11, 50 years ago today, taking flight. Neil Armstrong in that famous line, one small step, but what he maintained he really said. And the moment they returned, splashing down in the Pacific, few remember what happened to them next.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here at a Tuesday night. And we begin tonight with the firestorm over President Trump and race after the president told 4 Democratic congresswomen to go back to the countries where they came from. Today, the president saying he doesn't have a racist bone in his body. Democrats moving to condemn the president's remarks in Congress. The president urging his party not to show weakness. But many Republicans avoiding the issue as our correspondent tried to ask them to weigh in. Mary Bruce leads us off tonight from the Hill.
President Trump today declared, I don't have a racist bone in my body, but the firestorm over his racist tweets is only growing. The president telling 4 congresswomen of color to go back to the countries they came from. At the White House, our Karen Travers pressing him since all 4 congresswomen are citizens and 3 of them were born in the U.S.
When you say that the Democratic congresswomen should leave if they're not happy, where should they go?
It's up to them. Go wherever they want and they can stay. But they should love our country. They shouldn't hate our country.
Tonight, the House is voting on a resolution to condemn Trump's comments.
Every single member of this institution, Democratic and Republican, should join us in condemning the president's racist tweets. To do anything less would be a shocking rejection of our values and a shameful abdication of our oath of office to protect the American people.
That statement igniting chaos on the floor.
Request they be taken down.
Republicans objecting to the speaker even using the word racist to describe the president's tweets, saying it breaks the rules. The president had urged his party not to, quote, show weakness. Its leaders falling in line.
The president's tweets said go back racist.
No, I believe this is about ideology. This is about socialism versus freedom.
Frankly, the majority leader is complicit in advancing racism in America if he doesn't even have the backbone to speak out against the most basic line.
Most Republicans have been trying to avoid the issue entirely. Are these attacks good politics? Are they good for Republicans?
Let's find out. No, I don't think they're. First of all, I don't think they're attacks.
They're not attacks? Him saying they should go back to their country isn't an attack?
No.
Only a handful have been willing to criticize the president.
It's dangerous, it's demeaning to our fellow Americans, and that's simply wrong.
Republican leader Mitch McConnell is now calling on everyone to tone it down, but he's declining to address the president's comments directly or to say if they were racist.
The president's not a racist, and I think the tone of all of this is not good for the country.
Mary Bruce is live on the Hill tonight. And Mary, the House voting tonight on that resolution to condemn the president's tweets, and Nancy Pelosi essentially trying to force Republicans to go on the record?
Well, David, it is clear that Republicans here on the Hill simply do not want to be talking about the president's tweets and recent comments, but House Democrats are giving them no choice. That vote is now underway, and House Republicans are going to have to say where they stand. David?
Mary, thank you. Next here tonight, to outrage here in New York City, a police officer will not face federal charges in the choking death of Eric GArner 5 years ago. A video of the incident shows GArner saying, "I can't breathe," at least 11 times before falling unconscious. He later died. Tonight, his family says the Justice Department failed them. Here's ABC's Lindsay Davis.
5 years after Eric GArner died after being put in a chokehold, unbridled emotion today from his family after learning NYPD officer Daniel Pantaleo will not face federal charges.
I'm going to scream it! Pantaleo needs to be fired! He needs to be fired!
Justice! When do we want it? Now!
The decision comes after a sharp divide within the Justice Department, the department's Civil Rights Division recommending prosecution, while the U.S. Attorney's Office in Brooklyn claimed there wasn't enough evidence. In the end, Attorney General William Barr made the final call, deciding not to prosecute.
The video and the other evidence gathered in the investigation does not establish beyond a reasonable doubt that Officer Pantaleo acted willfully in violation of federal law.
GArner's dying words, "I can't breathe," caught on camera as officers wrestled him to the ground after accusing him of selling cigarettes illegally. The 43-year-old father of 6 died shortly after Pantaleo placed him in that chokehold.
5 years ago, my son said, "I can't breathe" 11 times. And today we can't breathe. Because they have let us down.
His death helped inspire a movement.
This case started the resurgence of police accountability. This case brought to the forefront Black Lives Matter and no justice, no peace.
Eric GArner's mother is now demanding that officer lose his job. He has remained on desk duty ever since GArner's death, and he has long denied any wrongdoing. It's now up to the police commissioner to decide by the end of August if he gets to keep his job. David.
Lindsay Davis with us tonight. Lindsay, thank you. Next tonight, much of the country bracing for extreme heat. The heat index rising to 108 in Washington. It is expected to feel like 106 in New York as well, where they are also concerned about the possibility of another blackout. This as the remnants of Hurricane Barry dumped more than a foot of rain in southwest Arkansas and triggered a possible tornado in Victoria, Mississippi. And tonight, 15 states are under heat alerts right up through the Northeast. Let's get right to meteorologist Rob Marciano tracking it all for us. Hey, Rob.
Hi, David. The heat's only going to build in the wake of what's left over with Barry, which can't get out of the Mississippi River Valley soon enough. Here it is on the radar scope. Up and down the river, we're looking at flood watches that remain. Still raining in Tupelo, Indianapolis, and up the Ohio River. This will get caught up in the summer jet stream, and that will bring the heaviest rain to the Northeast late in the day tomorrow. And then after that goes through Thursday, Friday, that's when we really start to build the heat. Look at these numbers in Kansas City, 109, 108 in Little Rock. That slides east. And for the weekend, we're talking about numbers in New York City of 106, near 110 in D.C. and Philadelphia. That will strain air conditioning units, certainly outside. It's dangerous heat. David?
Or appearing to bank suddenly to the left, flipping, and then crashing. A fireball erupts and black smoke rises into the air. And you see emergency crews rushing to the horrific scene as bystanders watch from afar. The plane bound for St. Petersburg, Florida, had 10 people on board, including 2 crew members and a family of 4 with 2 teenage children.
David, NTSB investigators have reviewed the aircraft's cockpit voice recorder, and they say 8 seconds before the crash, you can hear a crew member talk about a problem with the aircraft's left engine. The investigation continues. David?
All right, Marcus Moore tonight. Marcus, thank you. There has been a major break in the investigation into the death of a beloved African-American activist in Baton Rouge. Her body was found in the trunk of her car. A short time ago, authorities now announcing they have a suspect in custody and what they've now learned. Here's ABC's Alex Perez.
Tonight, police announcing an arrest in the murder of beloved Baton Rouge civil rights leader Sadie Roberts Joseph.
We received so many phone calls from the community when they learned it was Miss Sadie.
Ron Jermaine Bell, a convicted sex offender, has been charged with first-degree murder.
We believe Ron Bell was a tenant in one of her rent houses. We believe that he was behind several months on his rent.
The 75-year-old's body was found Friday, stuffed in the trunk of her car. In addition to creating the city's Black History Museum, Roberts Joseph spent decades working to educate people. Tonight, a shattered community and her daughter vowing to protect her legacy.
For those who were and are angry, live a better life. Give of yourself to your community to make the whole better.
David, the suspect has not yet entered a plea. Investigators do not believe she was the victim of a hate crime or targeted because of her activism. David?
Alex Perez with us tonight as well. Thank you, Alex. And we are just back from Houston tonight, where we broadcast from the Apollo 11 mission control last night. I heard from so many of you at home on Twitter and on Instagram about what we saw in that room. It was 50 years ago today, Apollo 11 lifted off on the way to that historic walk on the moon. And tonight, right here, what we did not know, right down to those famous words from Neil Armstrong. It was 50 years ago this morning, 9:32 Eastern, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, Michael Collins taking off from Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
I can see her rising now.
76 hours, 240,000 miles later, they entered into the lunar orbit. It was the next day Armstrong opened the hatch, 5 hours ahead of schedule. It was 10:56 p.m. July 20th. Armstrong stepped off the ladder and steps foot on the moon. But that famous quote, was it really what Americans heard?
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
He later said his microphone and the radio transmission made it difficult to hear what he actually planned to say. That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. Buzz Aldrin would join him on the moon 19 minutes later. They took photographs, ran scientific tests. 1:11 in the morning, July 21st, both astronauts were back inside, the hatch closed, and they would sleep on the surface of the moon. And right before their journey home, few remember that Aldrin's backpack hit the engine arming switch, which was needed to light the engine, and broke it off. Aldrin then pulled a pen from the pocket of his spacesuit.
So I pushed that in. Houston says, oh, we've got a good complete circuit.
They would splash into the Pacific at 12:50 p.m. July 24th. There would be 5 more successful lunar landing missions and 1 lunar swing-by, Apollo 13. Of course, that landing aborted.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
And now, 50 years after Apollo 11, NASA plans to return to the moon and then Mars on the Orion spacecraft, successfully testing it just this month.
Here we go.
Cliff Lanham, the senior project manager, showing us the mobile launcher, 400 feet tall.
We're building the mobile launcher, which will support the Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft to get us to that first step, which will be the moon.
NASA hopes it will happen in 2024. And back in Houston, where Flight Director Gene Kranz famously sat,
Capcom, we're stay for T1.
50 years later, there are now women in the 2 top jobs as Chief Flight Director and Deputy Chief Flight Director. They are still fueled by that moment. And when Neil Armstrong said the Eagle has landed.
That was an incredible moment that, I don't know, I hope my generation gets something like that.
And it was just a few years back, Buzz Aldrin telling me they had actually put odds on their trip. They knew they were risking their lives. What were the chances that you thought you were going to be able to successfully land on the moon?
Good question. So we figured it was about 60%, which we did. Not bad.
Buzz Aldrin, just a couple of years ago, they made it and made history. And later tonight, right here, that splashdown in the Pacific when they returned home, few of us remembered what actually happened to them right after that. And that's where we turn next tonight to chilling new details on the murder of an American scientist and mother in Greece. The suspect, the son of a priest, now officially charged tonight, and police say he's confessed to everything. Here's ABC's chief national correspondent, Matt Gupman, tonight.
Tonight, the first glimpse of the shadowy man suspected of brutally murdering American biologist Suzanne Eaton on the Greek island of Crete. Seen walking into court today, the 27-year-old is a father of 2, the son of a Greek Orthodox priest, now charged with Eaton's murder 2 weeks ago. And tonight, those images, the suspect posted videos of himself exploring a cave similar to the one Eaton was found in, which was used by the Nazis as a bunker. Police say he was spotted by a security camera near that cave and at first denied he was there on the day of the murder. But police say under interrogation, he confessed to spotting her walking, hitting Eaton twice with his car, then drove her to the bunker where he raped her. The cause of death, suffocation. Suzanne Eaton, who lived in Germany but was in Crete for a conference, went missing July 2nd after going for a run, sparking a week-long search. And David, police sources tell us that the 59-year-old mother of two who grew up here in California fought ferociously for her life. She's said to have suffered extensive defensive wounds. David.
All right, Matt, thank you. The index of other news tonight, Royal Caribbean's Empress of the Sea cruise ship will not stop in San Juan, Puerto Rico over concerns for passenger safety. Protesters took to the streets overnight demanding the governor resign after the leak of an online chat in which he made profane and sexist comments. Today, Governor Ricardo Rossello asking for forgiveness but said he would not resign. The Empress of the Sea, with 1,840 passengers on board, will stop in the British Virgin Islands instead. The new study tonight about Alzheimer's disease and the different risks for men and women. Scientists discovering new biological clues, possibly explaining why women may be more likely than men to develop Alzheimer's. Some researchers say newly identified genes may spread the disease differently in the brains of men and women. We have much more on the study on our website. The great gator hunt in Chicago, authorities today capturing the elusive alligator in Humboldt Park. It was caught after more than a week on the loose. The city will relocate it somewhere safe, a zoo or animal preserve. Authorities believe it may have been someone's pet that grew too big. They are reminding everyone, and this makes sense, gators do not make good pets. Game of Thrones going out with a bang. The show ending its run with a record 32 Emmy nominations, including one for Best Drama Series, despite criticism from many fans over how the series ended. That's the most nominations ever for a single season of any show in TV history. Tonight here, of course, it was 50 years ago today. Apollo 11 blasted off from Florida, and we have been reminded about so many moments 50 years ago, including the return to Earth and what happened right after. After that dramatic splashdown in the Pacific Ocean, there were celebrations in Mission Control, but what few may remember is what came next.
Now the three men wearing biological isolation garments entered the mobile quarantine facility.
The astronauts were quarantined to protect the planet from any germs they might have brought back from the moon.
Neil, Buzz, and Mike.
Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins greeted by President Richard Nixon. Their three faces pressed against the glass.
And welcoming you back to Earth.
Astronaut Michael Collins would say in an interview years later, all of it might have been for nothing. He said any germs they brought back with them would have escaped the moment they opened that hatch of the Pacific.
Command module lands in the Pacific Ocean, and what do? They open the hatch. You gotta open the hatch. All the damn germs come out.
They would stay in isolation for 3 weeks. First in this converted Airstream trailer aboard the USS Hornet aircraft carrier, then transported to Pearl Harbor, then to Houston, where the three astronauts' wives were waiting to finally see their husbands return from the moon. An extraordinary sacrifice for the wives, too, and deep faith that their husbands would come home. I'm David Muir. I hope to see you right back here tomorrow. Good night.